Hello, welcome back to Road to Master. I hope you all have an amazing day. We are here going over a game I wasn't too excited to share. It's a fun game, don't get me wrong, and I think I definitely had a better position. However, as you can probably tell from the title, there was a not great decision that I made that I probably should have known was not a good idea, but I went for it anyway. Um, Anyway, let's just get into it. Why not? So, my opponent, by the way, 1666, so slightly lower rated than me. Um, does add to the sting a bit of not getting the result I wanted. And it wasn't the result the team wanted either, actually, because if I remember correctly, the if I got a win, the team would have drawn the match, which is not great at all. But I don't think any of our team were particularly playing their best that day. Anyway, okay, yeah. I play the perk, and we go ahead with an F4. Now, an F4 is never something you ever want to see when you're playing the perk. It's fine. Objectively, it's not the best move, but it's just very tricky, and it puts a lot of pressure very quickly on black. Like, you know how to play it, it's fine. You don't know how to play it, it's scary, but still fine, if that makes sense. Because it's just very aggressive, that's all. Very aggressive. I decided to go with bishop g7 and then g6 first, bishop g7, just to avoid any e5 push straight away. I don't think it's bad. I don't know why I didn't, but I don't think it's bad either way, to be honest. And then we finally get d4. And here you can play this a few ways. The best move is actually c5. And playing this game actually inspired me to learn what to do against f4 properly. And this is, in fact, the best move. Because, well, if they don't take, right, you're just going to take, and supported by the bishop, you can get a quick knight c6. It's just nice, right? So they're going to take, and you don't take back, because this is just not great at all. So you actually throw in this check, and then whatever they do, whether it's bishop there or knight there, probably knight there, you just take back with the queen. In fact, you don't, yeah, you would take that first. So maybe, in fact, c3 isn't particularly a great move, I don't think. Maybe bishop d2. And you just take back this way. It's nicer. You keep your pawn structure intact. The bishop's opened up. It's cool. It's fine. Also, with the queen on this diagonal, by the way, you're preventing castling, which is quite cool. I like that. The other thing you can do, stick with your guns, knight f6, which goes into some similar lines. With actually some discovered threats. So if they take straight away, you have the discovered threat of actually just being able to take this pawn, which gets quite interesting. You could also castle, I think, straight away rather than c5. So yeah, there's some cool lines. I chose the bad one with knight d7. Just passive, super passive. I don't know what I was thinking. e5. Sometimes you play e5. There are just so many defenders of that square. You're likely to want to actually break on c5 instead, and sort of try contest the center by getting it at the side. You know, bishop d3 is fine. Knight f6, fine. Castles, both fine. And then here we go, c4. So this has actually turned into more of a 4 pawns King's Indian, which is very interesting. Unfortunately, it's too far gone to be able to follow the main line of the King's Indian. You can actually do either. Very interesting. But that's only if the king hasn't castled. Can you do e5? So we play what we know from the King's Indian, which is c5. By the way, if they push, you would break with e6 then. In fact, no, not in this situation. You would probably have to go knight b6 first, so the bishop opens up, which is why knight d7, not a great move. Knight b6, also a bad move, by the way. b5, and you play it like a Benoni, I guess, or is it a Benko? I don't know the difference between those two. They're very similar, but that's quite cool. But the whole point is you get them to commit, and then you undermine it, is the whole point. But this shows why this knight is not well placed. It's bad. They decide to go e5, which is such a strange move, and I think immediately just gives me a good position. Yes, we have a slight problem of where this knight's going, but if you are familiar with the perk, you know that knight e8 is actually a completely normal maneuver in the perk when they push e5, because the knight actually covers the d pawn quite nicely. There is no e6 because the bishop is not on c4, so we're all just chilling, basically, and we're completely undermining their center that they've taken a lot of time to build when they could have been developing. So I'm quite happy with this. They decide to take, we take back. Now we're taking, threatening just to take and win the pawn. So they can either push or they can take. If they take, I just get my knights out even more. And we are just absolutely dominating with all our pieces. This is coming out soon. The bishop's under attack. Potentially, we can go queen b6 and threaten a discovered attack with the threat of bishop takes as well. It's just so nice if they do that. They decide to push, though, rather than takes. And here I go knight f6, which I like. The computer prefers b5 still, sticking with that undermining from the side. And you're sort of left with this ugly looking d pawn, right? I went knight f6, and the reason I went knight f6 is to free up this bishop, which controls e6, so we can go for an e6 break. That was pretty much it for knight f6. They go knight c3, and my opponent plays this very well, by the way. Defends in quite a... Well, I mean, slightly straightforward defending, but he does do that quite well. He identifies the weaknesses quite well. We go e6 like our plan suggests, and we take back with a bishop. We're fully developed here. They're still lacking slightly in development, and we're threatening this pawn, which I love. They may have to go b3 at some point, at which point this bishop's going to be absolutely killer. So I'm very happy with that. They go knight e5. And here, I just say, actually, you're not defending this pawn well enough, right? Yes, temporarily, but what do you do after just knight d7? Because now, again, I'm threatening to win another pawn. So you actually have to deal with that. And to deal with that, you have to make this pawn weak, which I find so cool. And this knight's just gone there and back and there and back again. Like, it's so cool. I love it. They decide to take. Unfortunately, we don't have time to take this pawn. We have to take back with the queen. And here the computer gives us a shocking minus 1.7 for completely even material. We are just dominating. They are underdeveloped. They have so many weaknesses, which is the riskier side of playing f4. Is that if your center does collapse, you're going to have so many weaknesses, and it's not going to be nice because you've spent 2 extra moves pushing your flank pawns. And I've focused on developing instead, which is cool. So I like that. Bishop e2, inaccuracy apparently. You need to go rook f. No, you need to go bishop e3 and develop that way. Oh, and counterattack this pawn. Yeah, so maybe I would have to play b6 then in that situation. I am slightly worried about knight d5. However, I think we might be fine tactically after maybe a knight f5 potentially instead. Actually, no, we can probably just take this, right? Bishop d4 check. Oh, you block it off and then you're free to take, I think is the way to do it. Bishop e3 is very clever. But then bishop takes. Yeah. And then takes. And then bishop takes g2, threaten the rook. And then I think we just get a pawn out of that, right? Because they can't take because we'll just take. I think we're just good there. So a load of interesting ways to try defend that end up going not great. They go bishop e2, which I like. The computer says it's an accuracy. I mean, you've not fixed your problem, is the problem, I guess, for lack of a better way of saying it. You've not actually solved your problem. So once I unpin my queen, I am free to just take this. Simple as. So I just go rook d8 and say, actually, I've unpinned my queen. You still have to deal with this pawn. They go bishop e3. And they're saying they're counterattacking. Now, I thought maybe I could take and it works out better for us in the long run. I didn't want to. I didn't want to calculate all of that. I didn't think this was going anywhere. Unfortunately, they were able to defend it, sort of. So I decided to go b6, which I thought was just safe and slow. And I'm trying to get better at playing slow moves, so I thought I was being clever here. The computer actually says taking is preferable, is the best move, and this just isn't scary. Queen c6 apparently the reason. Bishop takes d6, rook takes d6, I guess. And then queen c2, and you just take. And I guess the claim is that we have the center with the rook and the queen. The bishop's doing a good job. And in fact, we could just win the pawn if we wanted, but I don't think that's the way to play this. Rook e8 completely dominate all three files. That's insane. Just say, what are you doing? Queen c2 to defend the pawn again. And then b5, and then threatening b4 as well with the pin on the queen. That's a very nice way of dealing with things. I decided to go b6 like a coward. And then queen b3, I think, is a really clever way of defending, actually. Rather than weakening with b3, which opens up my dark squared bishop, queen c3, sorry, not only connects the rooks, threatening the pin on a more malicious way, it defends the pawn quite tightly. And I've got no other way really to attack this pawn, so I'm sort of stuck a bit here. I go knight f5 because I'm realizing that these dark squares are incredibly weak surrounding the king. I just have to make use of them properly. Rook d1 makes a load of sense. Yes, you have a fork here, but danger levels, I have to move my queen. Queen e7, yeah, queen e7 I liked because these are actually both very weak as well. While that bishop's not defended, technically you can take first and then threaten the bishop, so that is fine, which is why I like queen e7. They move out of the way, and here knight d4, best move, threatening the bishop again and the queen. Takes, I mean, you have to. You can't defend the bishop otherwise with the attack on the queen, so you just have to take. And then we have the bishop pair. Then we have the bishop pair, and it starts to go downhill. It starts to go downhill very quickly. Bishop takes actually an inaccuracy. The best move is c takes, which confused me a lot. But I guess the question is, how do you really stop the pawn, right? Knight b1. I mean, the knight's incredibly trapped. It could go there. d3? 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 Bishop takes d3, then what? a6. Okay. Knight. Why can't you go knight there? Because of bishop g4. Apparently the computer likes this. I genuinely have no idea why. You're down a pawn, but it's a -2 advantage for black. I genuinely do not see why. Can't you just... Oh no, because that's hanging. Duh. Okay, yeah. So if you go up, then you've got check. I get you. That's very tricky. Wow. That's very tricky indeed, actually. So if they go knight d1, then you still go d3 with similar things, with bishop g4 and then check. But now the queen can come in though, which is quite tricky. Bishop takes d6, queen c5, king h1, I'm guessing. Rook takes d3. Because after rook takes, you've got this, and there is no rook c3 to pin the queen. Wow. That's so cool. I like that a lot, and we definitely missed our chance with that. So I guess the point is that you're making progress rather than with takes. You still have the bishop pair. You still have the control mostly of the center. You don't have the pawns to make progress with, and it locks up quite quickly. King h1, and here was my bad trade. I thought, yeah, I don't know what I thought, to be honest. I thought I just was winning here. I don't know. I genuinely don't know. I traded off my bishop pair for a knight that's doing not much at all. No other compensation, and just bishop f5. And I guess my thought was that I'm controlling this. This is locked, so they might have to go b3, and maybe I can get this bishop round here in an endgame. With the control of the open file, I genuinely don't know what I was thinking. We trade off, and it's sort of scary, to be honest. It's sort of scary. We're threatening some loose back ranks with rook e8. They have to deal with that. And then I go to trade the queens off as well, and I'm just like walking into a drawn endgame. And, you know, with the rook coming in, it's not particularly easily drawn. Well, it is easily drawn. I still find a way to mess it up, though. So rook e7, very safe move. Defending the f pawn, defending the a pawn. The problem is, bishop d5 is terrifying. It is really, really scary because because f7 is incredibly weak. So I sort of have to keep my rook on the 7th rank in order to defend that and the a pawn as well. Here, I make another terrible mistake. Maybe I can get away with like either just coming back and carrying on, and actually asking my opponent what they want to do, and maybe making them overextend. Or like going after these pawns and hoping, but I underestimated how weak my 7th rank actually was. Rook a1 is the best move. And they can try go for this. I decided with the silly move of rook c1, which is actually threatening nothing after bishop d5. Such a natural move as well. And now my rook's actually incredibly slow. And I can't actually defend the 7th rank. If I go there, what do I do? What do they do? Probably rook a8, right? And maybe we've got time to go back now and defend. But with the bishop on d5, it's just looking so drawn. Like, it's not nice at all. You can't go bishop e6. Say white waste the move. You can't go bishop e6, really. Rook takes, you lose your a pawn, and with pawn takes you just go into a slightly ugly pawn structure, and white can control the open file if they want. They can keep the pressure on the a pawn. It's just not nice at all. That being said, I make things even worse for myself and just give them a free tempo. Which is crazy. Allowing them rook a8 for free. And now, like, how do I stop this? I don't know how. I genuinely don't. So I go king f6 and just hope to escape that way. I'm thinking I've lost. And the point of king f6 was that I can play bishop e6 without the pin. Let's say I wasted a move here. I can play bishop e6 without this nasty pin on my king. So I can't actually take back after bishop takes. Which is all reason to play king f6. And now this is super, super weak. So weak. It's incredible. I'm down a pawn. I'm about to lose a second one. What do I do? I don't know. So I just panic. I bring my pieces closer to my pawns. And this should just be like winning. Apparently a miss here, actually, with a4. You just get the king closer. I shuffle because that's all I really can do. And here they actually make a blunder. with a5. Again, just get the king closer, I think, is the way to play it. Maybe try break on the king side and draw this king over here a bit. I don't really know. But a5 just not a great move apparently. Yes, it makes sense that you're getting the rook in on b5. And here apparently you just go rook d6, which makes no sense at all. I don't get why rook takes c5 is not great. Oh, because rook d3 check. Yeah. And then king g4 takes, and then rook c3, I guess. And apparently drawable. This is that very theoretical territory. Rook endgames are so complicated. I decided to go for a4 though and try a similar sort of thing, but a worse position, because now my rook's on the side, which is very bad way of defending, rather than my rook being on c3 where it just naturally defends the whole file. And luckily my opponent sort of misses their win a bit. Rook takes b5 is just losing. No, rook takes c5 draws actually. Oh, I've lost the position now. Oh no, where are we? Rook a6. The correct move here, just a5. Like you keep the pawn. There's no rush to take this. I can't go rook c6 here because of rook b6, which is a really nice move, forcing off the trade. And you're just letting my king in if I want it. f5 breaks up the pawns quite nicely. You can try push, but then I think I just come this way and take everything. And I don't think you're quite fast enough, unfortunately, because you've got to go the long way round to get this pawn and then move out of the way. So yeah, a5 is just is just brutal. But luckily my opponent was slightly rushed, decided to take on c5, and here rook c8, very natural. You're moving out the way to push the pawn. King d7, and then I thought here rook h8 maybe, rook f8, decent move, but just king e7. And I don't see how you actually make progress here, to be honest. You can try push the pawn with like rook c5, but then just king d6, and you either give up the pawn or you move back and repeat. So somehow I managed to actually get a draw out of this position, which was lucky, to be honest, because this was not great. This was sloppy from me. I mean, rook c2, such a bad move. Like, not the worst move I've ever played. I've played some pretty bad moves, but yeah, such a bad move. I should have just defended and accepted my fate with a draw. Maybe drag the game out and hope my opponent makes a mistake. I don't know. Anyway, I think we have maybe one more stinker of a game to go through, and then we're on to some fun stuff, which will be exciting. Anyway, thank you all so much for watching. I hope you all enjoyed. Please like if you liked. Please subscribe if you really liked, and I'll catch you guys all later. Bye-bye.